Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Charles Alder is my name from Bushed, and tonight we have a fantastic presentation by Kim Kleidon, a very dear friend of mine, Raising Smart Digital Citizens. Now, I need to tell you a little bit about Kim. For more than 30 years, Kim has worked across broadcasting, events, education, and digital media, guided by one belief: when we share our truth with clarity and courage, we connect beyond barriers. From her early days as an ABC radio presenter to creating what we teach our children, Kim has championed values-based storytelling that shifts hearts and sparks change. Today, she helps individuals and organisations uncover their authentic voice, craft responsible digital narratives, and use story to educate, engage, and empower. Through workshops, online learning, and her podcast, Kim amplifies voices that make the world better. Welcome, Kim Kleidon.
I don't even know how to respond to that, but thank you. I learned how to accept a compliment many, many years ago. I used to abuse people and call them names. And one guy said to me, all that's required when someone gives you a compliment is for you to say thank you graciously. And so I decided that instead of offending people, I would. So thank you, Charles.
My pleasure.
I'd like to say a big hello to Glauco, Marie, Kari, and everyone else who responded to my posts on LinkedIn and Facebook. I really appreciate you joining us here. We were expecting up to 20 people, but things happen, and there may be a few more people coming on board as we sort of move through this presentation. So let's start by talking about what tonight's session is all about. I mean, I'd like to provide you with as much information in this short webinar as possible to help you become digitally savvy. And I mean you, not the children, because it's really important for us as adults in society and in general to understand what this generation is now dealing with. We have failed, as far as I'm concerned, two previous generations who've been subjected to unfettered access to information their poor young brains probably weren't developed enough to manage. It's an overwhelming amount of information, even for adults. So you can imagine how a child must feel when they have this scrolling, massive 24/7 access to information from all over the world. In fact, more information than humanity's ever had to tap into. So we're going to cover encouraging curiosity and critical thinking, teaching ethics in digital content, helping kids research wisely. Now, that's something I learned through my work at the ABC, and it took me training to understand how to find valid information. And I'd like to share that with you as far as the simplicity of helping your children understand that. And then, of course, the all-important protecting online privacy. I've got a little story to share of something I just saw today, actually, online. I think it was something you liked, Charles, on LinkedIn. And it blew my mind because AI has taken things up a complete other notch, and it will continue to just keep evolving and more rapidly than anything we've ever seen before. I mean, if you're using ChatGPT, you'll know that with the recent release of 5, it has changed its speed, its response. It is learning constantly. So we are going to understand key digital skills for our children, learn practical strategies to guide safe online use, and hopefully by the end of this, you'll feel empowered to at least make a start and build a foundation. If you have any questions, like Charles said, please put them into the chat, and I will be prompting you to connect with us throughout this presentation. At the end, I'm hoping we'll have enough time for a Q&A. So if you do have any other questions by the end of it, we'd be happy to have you open up your mic maybe and come on and interact with me directly. That'd be wonderful. Many of you are people I already know. All right, so we're going to start with looking at why this matters. It would be good if my screen would work. What is going on, Charles? Now, children obviously spend increasing amounts of time online. I've been shocked at the age some children have been given a device, and I'm talking 8, 9, 10. 12 is the age group we've heard more about in relation to the harm from being online and being subjected to cyberbullying. and the resultant action that some children have taken. So, we need to really think about how we're managing this particular resource, because it's an important resource for humanity. We can't ignore it. So the risks, from my perspective, include misinformation, cyberbullying, and privacy breaches. And some children are doing that to each other. Now, whilst our education systems have embraced online learning and digital devices, there are key areas that remain unaddressed, yet our children are exposed to them daily. So I'm interested in the audience we have tonight, how many of you are managing devices with your children at home? Just in the chat, yes or no? Charles, can you see the chat? Because I don't have it open with my screen.
I can indeed, Kim.
Great. Yes, yes, yes. All right. That was when we first started. So no one's really looking at. Does anyone have, my grandchildren have, Nintendos. They have a smart TV that has access to YouTube that my daughter has to manage, because especially with my youngest grandson, he loves YouTube. He loves all the educational stuff. Rhiannon says not yet. We're avoiding iPads and phones so far. Good on you, Rhiannon. I dodged a bullet. I had a post about this the other day with my children through the 90s. We just didn't have internet access until they're 18 and of age to manage the legal ramifications of their devices and whatever access they had online. So that was just my approach. I know it's not as easy this day, but I'm proud of parents who are just keeping it away from them. Denise, what type of devices are you trying to manage at home? Just back in the chat again.
Denise will come back to us.
That's all right. We'll wait. We'll move on to that. Now, a computer, well, that's enough, isn't it? Because it usually, if it's attached to the internet, like I was just talking about, they've got access to everything if you're not in the room. Now, it's not all bad. Obviously, our children need to be confident users of technology as we move through this modern age. Unfortunately, they're not really mature enough to have developed the skills required, which is where we come in. So the opportunities, which, some of them are on the screen, include learning, creativity, which is so important in relation to the future we face as humans, and connection. Now, parents and carers play a key guiding role, because some of those children are already publishing, as the screen says, and they are completely unaware of, issues like copyright, plagiarism, the legal ramifications. If you're publishing to an online platform, even you as an adult, did you know you can be held to the same standards as a media agency? Yeah, the big media players. So these are things you need to keep in mind. Now, I've spent most of my life working in commercial media, from radio and television production, sales, advertising on air, to print media. And of course, I did 8 years in storytelling for our national broadcaster, as Charles mentioned. Now, this is where I learned about the copyright, plagiarism, licensing, ethics, and integrity across that 35 years of being in media, and through some pretty big leaps in technology. And I'm surprised at how much things have evolved and how far behind many of us have fallen, because we either haven't had to use it, we're disengaged, or like my parents, well, my mother particularly, not my dad so much, just a fear of the whole technology thing. My mother doesn't have email, social media, online banking, any of that. So, I get it. There are a lot of reasons why people haven't embraced or discovered how we can, actually do a positive experience in the online world. So you need to understand the impacts of not only your children's online activities, but yours, because we're the ones who are setting an example. So I think, we'll explore the gap in education tonight, which is what I've been doing with local schools. I had the opportunity to present recently in July at a massive youth literature festival. It was the first time they'd actually done anything in digital media, which was a surprise to me. Books are great, but the reality is we spend a lot of time in the digital space. We also have digital devices to produce digital content. So understanding how we can use that creatively to connect with people, especially in telling stories, which is my forte, I think that, it's behoven to us to actually try and achieve that. We actually control what we bring into our lives. I mean, my circle on social media is governed by the content I consume and the content I share. So the law of attraction, it exists, and especially online. And I've found myself through phases in my life finding improved networks and discarding, or just letting go of past connections. If I see someone who's being negative or maybe polarizing, I would choose to probably leave that connection online, because I want to surround myself with people who have similar values, who want to make the world a better place. So in school, we have a similar situation, and the school I've been working with is one of the best in the region. It's a private school, it's a boarding school, and it goes from prep right through to year 12. So it's a perfect place for me to run a pilot program. And I discovered that the year 6 teacher is doing humanities next term, and came up with an idea whilst I was sharing their break room that, hey, why don't we do a podcast with our year 6s, and they can explore culture and migration and, different cultures from around the world in that podcast. And I was like, my ears just pricked up, and I'm thinking, I could help you with that, because they had no experience in podcasting, scripting, creating content, all of that stuff. Anyway, so there was a lot of excitement. There was a real buzz in the room that day. And I thought, well, if this is the direction schools are heading in, and through my presentations, I learned other schools are also heading in that direction, even in Proserpine, which is north of Mackay, where I live. Those storytelling, culture and values are so important. As human beings, it's in our DNA. And so if we teach children the skills of raising their voice, especially about things that matter to them, that are important for humanity, why not? Why aren't we starting as soon as possible? So, yeah, I'm really excited about those opportunities. And I think telling stories ethically and having that, really positive impact is what a lot of people are looking for now. I see it more and more on LinkedIn from professionals, these heart-led coaches and people who are looking to do really great things in the world, all over the world. So, it's understandable not everyone has this information, and I feel it's really my responsibility to share it. This is just a snapshot of the benefits I'm outlining tonight. And I think that we can start this in the home. I mean, we read books to children. It's part of their literacy and learning. It's part of their language. It's part of creating relationships and safe spaces for our children. So all that side of education. But if we think about doing it with intention and purpose, having that goal, and understanding that these children are going to grow from storybooks in their early childhood through to sharing stories with their friends, or reading stories, or watching stories, or whatever it is. We consume it every day. We watch television, YouTube, we're on social media, we have video content, and they might only be 5 minutes, but if it's a good video, it's probably a great story that leaves you with something, a feeling, an emotion. So, we're going to definitely look at the benefits of that, the critical thinking aspect, how you can encourage your child to think critically, the research and fact-checking skills, and also some resources as to where you go to find whether it's an actual ethical source. Content production skills, something I teach people, particularly on their mobile phones, because everyone has one of those, and children will eventually as well, regardless of how long you put it off. Even if it's 18, like I did with my children, they had to have a job, buy their own phone, and manage their own plan. I mean, it was a nightmare managing their calls from my landline at the time. So I wasn't going to step out of that world, I can tell you. And my daughter is managing the 3 grandchildren exactly the same. Harry's off to high school next year. So he's 12 in September. And I'm really looking forward to watching how she manages that. Although Harry's a very responsible, mature 12-year-old, he represents, in sport. So he's actually got a different mentality through the exposure to sporting and team building and having that confidence built in him. So it'll be interesting to see how that all unfolds. The online safety and ethical engagement, of course, and all of it bringing you and your children confidence and creating these future skills that they will be required to have. Have any of you looked at the job stats? What are the jobs of the future? What jobs are going? What jobs are being created? It is mind blowing. So anyone else seeing those future jobs coming out and rolling out in news stories online? There's been some big focus on it on, platforms like LinkedIn and Facebook as well. Human skills, thanks, Carrie, exactly. So, that leading qualities, looking at more vulnerability and empathy and having that connection is so important. And so the other skills they will need is how to manage digital platforms, digital media, digital everything. So, if we can start managing that at home and teaching them soft skills as well, things that differentiate us from AI will be very important, because AI is going to take over a lot of the manual jobs that we see now. There are people, doomsdaying about that, but we've evolved even from the Industrial Revolution, the Ag Revolution. All of those revolutions have brought us to where we are now. And we are the creator of our own destiny. So we need to remember we've had a hand in all of this. And I think the best we can do is try to empower ourselves and our children for what lies ahead. We don't know what lies ahead, do we? So, does everyone understand ethical content creation or ethics online? Yes? No? Yes, from Charles. I think so, Rhiannon. Great, because you might pick up a few things here. Yes, nope. Thanks, Glauco. So, ethical content creation and ethical behavior online prioritizes the safety and well-being of the people who are both producing and experiencing it. So content should be designed to avoid any harm or negative impacts, particularly for children's mental and physical health, their bonding or their social skills. So inappropriate exposure to content really is an issue. And even what we post has an impact on other people's lives. How they receive it, we don't know. We don't know what mind state they're in, how their mental health is. So this is where we need to start being more thoughtful. I did a TEDx in 2017 on connection. And one of the things that I left, the message that I was getting to at the end of that was this one important thought. And it was the idea that we connect with people, we tell stories with purpose and intention of connecting. And so this is, one of the ethoses I've held for much of my life. And I really want to encourage other people to pick up on it and really think about what they're doing and how it's impacting people and what other people's voices, might interpret it as, so are we being inclusive? We want to promote inclusivity and diversity. There's been a lot of talk about neurodivergence. And the other day I was talking to someone about Disability Australia and how they're now classifying ADHD as a disability, which it was in the name. Autism spectrum disorder really is leading to something that is saying that there's something wrong there. It's a disability, but neurodivergence captures the neurodiversity of our brains, and we're learning more and more about it all the time. So it's like one step forward, two steps back. But we need to remember some of the people we know and love could be categorized. I'm neurodivergent. I know that's not a surprise to people who know me. I talk a lot and I have these, really highs, lows, moments of brilliance, and then, fall in a heap. So these are just the ways some of our brains are either conditioned or born. And there's a lot of information out there for you to even engage in that. I did an interview on my podcast with Eileen Devine out of I think she's in England. Anyway, she's brain first parenting. No, she's American. Anyway, she has a son and she adopted a daughter, and the son is neurotypical and the daughter is neurodivergent. And she had to totally retrain herself in parenting. But it was because she had been a counselor and she'd done a lot of social work that she understood that something had to change. So these are the things, if we pick up on this information, we understand different approaches, and we can talk to our children or appreciate them in a totally different light, I think that's only going to put them in better stead for their future. So how can we ensure, age appropriateness? Well, it should be suitable for the intended age group. So whatever they're watching, is that something you think is appropriate for them? And considering their developmental stage. So some children might be older, but still at a developmental stage that isn't as advanced as their age. So, we need to take that on an individual basis. Now, we also need to respect privacy and data security. So, one thing that shocked me today when thinking about people who are posting photos of their children online, they're using them in maybe their brand online, they're doing the TikTok dances or the TikTok activities, or they're filming their kids at home and then posting it. Are they asking their children for permission to do that? Or as a parent, are we overriding that because we know what's best for them, or they're our children and we have legal responsibility? Would you ask your children? Like, you'd have to ask someone else if you could get an image of their child and then publish it. So the same with when you're talking to your children, if they're looking at posting something online, perhaps they have a device and they're on social media, would they say that to someone's face? So this is where cyberbullying, parents haven't been involved. And there's a lot of information out there. Maggie Chibano, who I interviewed and released last week on What We Teach Our Children, she developed an app because her 12-year-old was cyberbullied. And as someone who had came to this country as an immigrant and had 14 schools in her school years, and she didn't start school in Australia, I don't think. So when you think about that, imagine being the new girl at 14 schools and being from Europe, where English, was not her first language. She was bullied phenomenally, and she swore it would never happen to her children. Well, it did, and she'd given the device to her daughter. It's a very interesting story, but now she's taken action and she's developed an app that helps parents replace the keyboard and the keyboard flags, just keywords that have been listed as part of, the words that you shouldn't say if you don't want to bully someone, or you don't want to intimidate someone, or you don't want to name call someone. So worth a look anyway. You choose. So if you are dealing with devices and you're looking for a solution that might help you navigate this with your child in partnership, then that's worth a look as well. So that's what I mean. There's solutions to nearly everything. We want to promote, as I said before, the inclusivity and diversity, and feature characters and stories that are not necessarily stereotyped. So, if we're teaching children about content online, talking about themselves, but also making sure that they're inclusive of other people's voices. Now, authenticity is another area I'm very passionate about. Being authentic in your voice. Your voice is yours. Your voice is individual. Your experience, your skills, you're unique in the entire world. So discovering that unique voice, your unique passions, your unique, experience where that all centers, that's what you really want to be. You want to be encouraging your children to be themselves as well, not to be copying people, not to be following the influencer trend, because all we're doing there is saying to kids they're not good enough. So let's look at how we can encourage them to have this integrity, to be authentic, and to think about who they are, encourage them to be themselves. So probably the longer you keep them off devices, the better. Not being exposed to something else they might think they should be. Even advertising can do that. That happened to us in my generation. So this is something that I find quite confronting. What's on your screen at the moment are some statistics, and I wish I had the names of some of these kids. And I can tell you that the children who haven't lived, their names have been reported, and there's been quite a few this year. Dolly's one that comes to mind that struck me, especially from a rural and regional area, and her parents have gone on, to create the charity. And I think that losing someone like Dolly, just tragic. And it continues to happen. It hasn't stopped since then. So, what more can we do? We need to think about that. But if your child is on devices between the ages of 12 and 17, they could be part of that percentage who are experiencing cyberbullying, because most of them don't talk about it. I'm sure there's a lot of shame and guilt that goes into that. And the last thing you want to do is start telling people what others are saying about you, and sometimes especially parents in those teenage years. But those direct links to all of those mental health outcomes, as well as the educational ones, they're not good. So who knows how to change their privacy settings on social media? Just in the chat. Yep, of course you do, Carrie. Yep. Thanks, Denise. Okay, thank you. Yes, I do. Do you? Do you do it regularly? Did you know that they revert every time there's an app update? Comment in the chat. Do you update it every time there's an app update? No. No. That's my problem, keeping up with doing it regularly. I didn't realize there's a lot of things we don't realize even when we sign up for social media. Now, who's going to read the fine print? It's pages. It's deliberate. They do that so you don't look into the fine print. But every time they do an app update, and everything refreshes, it just goes back to those like factory settings in your phone. So it's something you need to do. It's a health check. The best way, for my privacy, I always have the settings at the highest. They don't change. So you can only friend me if you're a friend of a friend, for a start. So I always had those highest privacy settings, and that's because I was a public person. And the last thing I wanted was for people I'd never met and didn't know coming into my personal social media account, because I wanted to be myself there, and the ABC didn't want me being myself on air. It's just putting it bluntly. I could have polarized an audience, really, and especially if I was dropping F-bombs and things like that. But anyway, let's not go down that rabbit hole. So yeah, make sure you understand that and you do regular updates. It's like changing your password. Go in and change privacy settings, or at least do a privacy update check and make sure your settings are where you think they should be. The other thing they don't tell you is who posts photos to Facebook, Instagram, any other platforms. How many of you are posting photos? Yes, yes. Okay. Are you aware of where copyright ownership goes to when you post on Facebook and Instagram? It's not you. It's theirs. Exactly. So when you sign up to Facebook, in the fine print, it states that anything you publish on their platform, they then retain copyright of, so that they can use it freely without paying you. So if you're a professional, and this has happened to some professional photographers I know, then your recourse is through the courts. But because we're in Australia and Meta's based in the US, they're held to different standards. There was a case where a famous aerial artist in a circus died. She was Australian. And the photos she had on her profile were taken by this woman, Kira, I know, in Sydney, she's a portrait photographer. Beautiful images, very, very talented woman. And, this girl had a photo shoot with her. And even though she'd paid for them, the photographer retains the copyright of those images, right? So usually that's how it is. Now, when it's published to Facebook, it was used by the news and it was used by this, and there was no credit given for the image belonging to Kira. So she actually was one of the only people I've ever known who's followed this up, took it to court. I don't remember what happened, but I just want you to understand, if you're a professional or if you ever want the rights to your image to publish it, sell it, don't post it on Facebook. Use a different one. I always keep my best images that I think, I might make a calendar one day or I might do this or that. Because through the copyright laws, if Facebook wanted to take you to task over your own image and you posted it there and then you want to sell it, they've got every right to sue you, which is ridiculous. I know. And it probably wouldn't happen, but you need to be aware. And it's the same with if you publish someone else's work and you don't credit them. If you don't say this image was taken by such and such and put a link to the work or, some sort of acknowledgement, then it's not nice, for one thing. I don't like it when people do it to me. Crediting someone for their work, especially an artist's work, is sort of like doing a nice this person does great work, like it's a promotion for the artist. And if you're getting the benefit of using that image, unless you've paid for it, like on a site where people sell their work for other people to use, then that artwork or that image belongs to the person who created it. So just be aware, and you cannot post other people's images, even ones you've taken in public, especially of children. When I was at ABC, one thing I used to do when I went to schools, even though the schools had the rights from the parents for, some children's images to be taken and used to promote the school, if I was doing a story and I had to take photos for the online version, I would always take them from above while they were sort of drawing or behind. I never, ever wanted to publish images of a child. And now I'm glad, because I saw this LinkedIn post the other day where they took an AI image of a baby or a young child that had been posted. Then they aged it. And then they added the voice and they played it to some people in an audience. Now, it looked like it was pretty real. It was posted by someone in another country, but and she's like this expert in human behavior, but these parents were evidently sitting in the audience and this video came up and it went from this baby photo to changing her into a mature person and using her voice, and then created this whole AI driven video out of this one image that just sent shivers down my spine. And they were using it to basically say, she was saying to them, hey, mum and dad, I don't want, this to happen to me. I don't want this to be my future because you've posted an image of me online. And now they've been able to use it, created the voice, to go with it. And honestly, people can sample voices from your videos, from your TikToks, from wherever. They can put it all together. They've done it to famous people. Stephen Bartlett's had it happen to him. That's the Diary of a CEO podcast and, flight story creator in the UK. It's like, it can happen to anyone. So all I can say is please think about what you're sharing online. And if you do want to be in this space, keep your privacy settings high. Make sure you're aware of your digital footprint, what it's safe to share, device privacy settings on everything you've got, and asking consent before you post anyone else's content, even if it's a poem. I don't know. I've been in the backseat of this for a while. I had a friend who liked a photo. She was an artist. I'd posted a photo from my backyard of a sunset, absolutely stunning image with gum trees and, layers of oranges and reds and, just a magical sunset with clouds. And this one person popped up and said, oh, this would look great, in my art style. And I'm like, hang on. I'm sorry, you can't use it. Like, I don't get permission for, you can't just go and replicate someone else's art. It's just not on. There we go. So, has anyone here had their children experience online bullying? Nope. No. Excellent. This is so good. Rhiannon, it helps if you don't give your children devices. That's the thing. I keep a close eye about it. Yes, you should. Um, Just be aware that if your children do have devices and you think you're keeping a close eye on it, if you don't have a very open communication or they're spending time alone a lot in their room, it could be time for a bit of a chat. It's never too late to try and understand and let them know that you've created a safe space where they can share and you're not going to be, judge or be angry or upset. You're just there to help and you'll do anything for them. At the end of the day, that's all they need. All right. I see this as an opportunity for all of us, but particularly for parents and teachers, because we're the ones who have the authority and the opportunity to introduce new skills. So if you look at the percentages of youth in those age groups who own a phone, who engage in over 1 hour of screen-based activities daily or weekly, it's pretty high. I saw a lot of engagement and interest when I presented these topics, and a lot of students who were already clearly active on social media who weren't aware of any of what I've just shared with you about copyright, plagiarism, music even. From being in radio and having a background in music licensing, even if you have a wedding or something at a venue, if the venue's not covered and paying APRA fees, then you can't play music. Like, you should be paying to use music in a space where you're broadcasting it to more than yourself, right? If it's not a personal usage. And now with Spotify and all these, you got access to everything. People just get into a Bluetooth speaker and broadcast away. But if you're caught and you're broadcasting music that you haven't licensed the rights to, you can get in big trouble. And I only know that because I was in radio, and I know that APRA people still exist. If you go, like, as someone who produces video, we pay for our music, we pay for those rights. And we have to actually say how we're producing it, what platforms we're producing it for, so that we can pay the right licensing fee for that particular track, even if it's 30 seconds. So in radio, they pay APRA fees to broadcast that music. But now with Spotify, they pay the artist rights directly. But, those APRA fees for public broadcasts of music, they just don't get paid anymore. I don't even know how they get around it. But anyway, so these are the sorts of things, unless you're in it, it's really hard to understand. Now, talking to your children about the internet is an interesting topic. Have any of you raised this subject with your children, no matter how young or old? Just in the chat. Yes. Great, Rhiannon. Yes, Denise, good on you. So I'm interested to know what sort of, conversations you've had around, like, what are the topics about the internet have you had? Is it, educational? Is it the scary stuff about the, people who want to meet you in a park and don't tell your parents stuff? So what sort of conversations have you had about the internet with your kids? Must be typing, Charles. Oh, yeah, we were. We've more spoken about how not everything on the internet is suitable. So they need to make sure mum or dad are with them when they want to use our devices for Google, etc. Good on you, Rhiannon. I do that with my grandchildren. I don't let them out of my sight. If they're on my phone, they're right next to me. Posting pictures. Excellent, Denise. Love it. Don't defame. Yes, that's good too. Don't say what you wouldn't say to someone's face. Mine are often with younger children, so it's been developmentally appropriate questions and conversations. Yes, Carrie's an educator, everyone. Someone with over 30 years experience, and one of my, just, I don't know. I'm just enamored with Carrie, and we've sort of been talking. Carrie was my first podcast guest back in November last year. So if you want to hear about her and her book, she's got an amazing book that if you've got young children, I would urge you to look at. It's called Raising a Mentally Fit generation. Right? Is it Raising a Mentally Fit Generation? I hope I got that right. But you can check out Carrie on LinkedIn. You got it. Excellent. It's one of the best books I've ever read because it covers off on the resilience, on all of these, empathy, on all of these topics of how we want our children to be. So check it out. Make sure you grab a copy. And if you want to know more about Carrie's work, you can listen to the couple of conversations we've had on While We Teach Our Children. Honestly, that's my passion project. It's a gift to anyone who is around children. It's conversations with people, not just like Carrie, parents, kids, people who are still like youth, and how their parents supported them, researchers, experts, just heart-led, so many different. It's just blown my mind, and it keeps coming. So if you're looking to listen to some 20-minute conversations with some amazing people who've got some really sage advice and pearls of wisdom to share, check it out. I love it. I'm just having such a good time. All right, so collaborative tech use is another area, looking at how we use tech in a way that doesn't do any harm. Like Charles said, we don't want to be getting into a space where we're judging other people and moving into that unkind world. So having regular tech talks at home is always going to be useful, and I would urge you to do it. All right, so we have this is probably one of the biggest areas. So developing these topics and subjects is where I'm headed. This is where I want to focus my attention with schools. And this is why I wanted to share this with you tonight, because regional and rural people often homeschool. But even if you're not, having this knowledge or being able to assist your children with this from home is setting them up for a better future, honestly, particularly when you're looking around the researching and the critical thinking. So you're teaching them real world skills that prepare them for life. I mean, you look at our lives now. What are you doing with your technology? How are you using it at work? How are you using it in your personal life? What sort of communication are you doing? What sort of content are you creating? Your children are going to want to do that. Sooner or later, it's going to happen. So if we set them up now, we might actually set them up to succeed. So teaching children how to identify misinformation, right? It's getting harder, I know. I mean, AI is really making fake news more difficult to determine. But if we use our experience and our critical thinking skills and ask questions about what we're seeing when we're seeing it, I think it's going to give us an edge. And that's what we need to tell our children. Question everything. Just question everything. There's no harm in it. I know for parents, it can be really annoying. My daughter used to just be beside herself. The kids would be like, Mimi, why did this happen? And I'd tell them. And then they'd say, yes, but why? And it'd just be like, why? And I'd keep answering them because I just love to inform them. And my daughter would be tearing her hair out the background saying, Mum, for God's sake, just stop it. Driving her nuts. So I get it. But at the same time, we need to make them question, differently. So maybe not just always why, because that's obviously a young child thing, but questioning what, when, who, how. Those questions the who, what, when, why, how have served me so well in life. How to identify misinformation, how to check credible sources, how do you find credible sources? I can tell you, you want to look for research papers, usually peer reviewed. You want to go to government websites, find statistics, but then look into where that source came from. Every time there's a source, it'll be cited in a document. And if you can keep following that back and you can cross-check it, which is what I was really taught to do at ABC, we were never allowed to use one source of information. That was critical to reporting, to telling stories, to everything we did. We had to find 3 to 4 really reliable sources of information. And usually credibility comes out of science, research, facts that are established by government bodies or just something that's reliable. And I can tell you our Australian government website has a massive data bank of resources and information around copyright, around language, around data and statistics from the ABS, like just phenomenal. So, if you are looking to double check things and your kids are doing research, and help them out to find, fact checking tools online. There are many of them available. Don't you? Not necessarily Wikipedia, because anyone can update that. I can go on there and put up Wikipedia about me and I'll make it all up. So make sure you can double check references. AVS and AIHW websites are bookmarked on my laptop. Oh, Rhiannon, hey, you're at the top of the class. I love it. All right. So, understanding source bias as well. I mean, we live with a bias, that's just our perspective, what we grow up with. We have this unconscious bias in everything we do. So understanding source bias is just as critical as understanding our own unconscious bias. All right, understanding what critical thinking is in the digital world. I want you to encourage children to ask, is this true? Who created it and why did they create it? What's it for? What's this information? What's the goal of actually sharing this? I get people to reverse engineer content like this. I have 5 questions that you need to ask yourself before you post something. Who is it for? Why am I sharing it? What do I expect to happen? And how can I manage any impacts, right? So if you can't answer those questions before don't bother. Just stop right there. Don't do it. Otherwise, you're just filling the whole world with noise. And there's enough of it out there, I can tell you. So we also want to know if that information source can be verified, right? Doubling back to that credible sources that we can find. We also want to model good behavior, right? Children learn more through what they see than what you tell them. Believe me, they model themselves on you, what you're doing, what you're not saying sometimes. Body language can say a lot as well. The energy you exude, children can pick up on that. So you can look things up together. This is how you model great online behavior. And I think we were just talking about that. And Rhiannon mentioned, that's what she will do. If there's anything that needs to be Googled or YouTubed, you're right there. So, create safe spaces for discussion and celebrate curiosity and exploration. It's so important. It's critical to our future and theirs. So if you want to create the awareness, of ethics, that's simple. People need to understand their words and images have impact, and there are ethical considerations in everything we do as human beings, not just right and wrong, good and bad. It's all about who we want to be and who we want our children to be. So that's about where it all comes to an end for me. We've got 10 minutes to do some questions. So I would love to chat to you about any tips you have to share, like you have in the chat. If anyone wants to come on to, hi, Charles. Charles is back. Turn their video on and their microphone on. We can have a bit of a chat if you want to consider any of that or ask questions about other things. I'd love to hear if anyone's got a family digital agreement. Obviously, Rhiannon's got a research checklist and recommended resources. I love that. But also, if you know of any support networks, like eSafety or any other common sense media. One thing I do, and I will urge you all actually to do, if you're looking for really great sources of news and in-depth analysis of news, just go and subscribe to The Conversation. I've been following them since my early ABC days, so 20 years now. And I can say the best information I get is from The Conversation, right? So yeah, get stuck into that. I actually supported them financially for the last 5 years, but my business model changed 12 months ago and I had no backup plans. So I've had to withdraw that temporarily. But if you pay for a newspaper, do yourself a favor, take your money off them and give them to a credible news source and support the conversation. They're fantastic. All right. Does anyone want to have a chat? Anyone at all?
Very good information, Kimmy. Thank you again.
Oh, thanks, Charles.
As always.
It was probably a lot, but what I was trying to do was back up as well. So I've just tried to reinforce a lot of the information that was introduced. Yeah. Hey, Rhiannon, are you going to talk to me? I haven't seen you for so long. What are you
Hey,
doing?
Kim. It has been a very long time. I don't think I even had kids the last time I saw you.
No, you did not. I have grandchildren as well. So,
Oh, crazy.
I
Absolutely
know.
crazy. I think the one question I kind of had, or kind of statement I had, was as somebody who does have much younger children, so they're only 8 and 5, and hence why it's been easy so far without devices. That kind of, when they do start to get interested in wanting social media particularly, and I know I'm still years ahead, or hopefully years from that conversation, is there a go-to space where, like, even if it's just the top 5 things that you've got to cover off with them when you finally allow them to have that access to social media and stuff, like something you just said before about saying to them, being able to fact check things and say, this is not right. And the first thing that popped into my head was, right, when I actually sit down with my daughters and show them, I'm going to show them, look, we can put this lie straight onto the internet. You and I can do it right now. And we know it's a lie and we'll put it straight on the internet. But somebody else might not know it's a lie, just so that they can understand that it just because it's there doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah.
So is there like a kind of a website or something that you can go to that gives you that kind of that first stuff that you really should go through with your child before allowing them to have social media accounts and things like
I'm not
that?
sure that there's one specific, Rhiannon, but I do know that there are sites like Reddit and Snopes that do checks. But there's also there's another one that flags content. Charles, can you remember what the name of it is?
No, I'm trying to think of it myself.
Um, there is a site that where people can flag content. You just have to sort of search. I think Charles is trying to do something. I can't do anything on my laptop at the moment because my screen's being shared. But I think that you'd be able to find something online. I've just gone brain dead at the moment, but I used to have a fact checking site. ABC has one. But as far as social media goes, I don't know of one specific that you could probably go to as an example, but there are plenty of sites out there that will show you how much misinformation is on the internet for your children, as an example. The ABC has
Yeah.
one. Snopes was another one I mentioned. Reddit has discussions on things like that. But there's another site that I used to use, and for the life of me, my brain cannot grasp it right now. But
Was it called
connect with
Cora?
me on Face. Who?
Cora?
Cora's one. It's a bit dodgy sometimes. Rhiannon, I'll follow this up with you on socials if you like.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you.
But the other thing I'd suggest, like as an introduction, YouTube has a kids channel.
Yeah, we have. So we've actually taken YouTube off every device that we've got now as well, even the TV. I know this sounds overbearing, but we've noticed that YouTube Kids can be infiltrated
Oh
just as
yeah,
much as YouTube
yeah.
itself. So unless
I,
I've got the time to sit and watch
I
something before they
understand.
watch it,
Yeah.
and it's also some of the YouTube like shows, it just kind of really changes the girls' behaviors. Like they're in that very easily manipulated kind of age group at the moment where
How old are they?
8 and 5. And particularly when
Oh,
I said that they watch American style of shows, that kind
yeah.
of behavior comes out, and I'm like, oh, this is not great.
No. So in that case, you probably just want to stick with ABC Kids. That's where my kids were for a long.
Yeah, that's what we use actually. We love ABC Kids.
Because I did hear something disturbing about YouTube recently where there was a Peppa Pig, like a fake Peppa Pig that was doing inappropriate things, and kids just thought they were watching Peppa Pig, but it actually wasn't.
I had heard about that. Thankfully, we haven't seen
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I understand why you're avoiding YouTube, because unfortunately there are people out there who say they're producing content for kids, but it's not.
It's not. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, look, I would suggest exactly the reason I kept my kids away from all of that, like I said, was because I don't understand how any child under the age of 18, which is the legal age of consent for a lot of things, um, is allowed to actually be on a publishing platform in the first place. Like this is just it astounds me. I've mentioned it a few times in my podcast to people. Like I don't understand how it's possible that these children are even on there in the first place because you need to be 18 to be legally responsible for everything they're doing.
Mm.
Blows my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do wonder these kids that are really exposed to that kind of stuff, how are they going to feel when they are 18 and realize they were exploited?
There's people I've come across in their 20s and they're saying they wish they'd never had a device and they'd never been exposed to social media. So
Mm.
yeah, there you go. So good luck is all I can say. But I would say delay, delay, delay. But I would also encourage you to help them create content using your mobile phone by, photos, videos, and doing stories internally, like helping them understand how they can create ethical content. They don't have to publish it, but creating it is a lot of fun. And it encourages children to understand how to claim their voice and how to share information. And that way, if you're giving them the tools and you're demonstrating how they can actually do it ethically with integrity, you've already given them a head start. And realistically, I think if we create kids that are resilient and independent and know their own mind, they're not going to want to run with that pack anyway.
That's really good information, actually. That's definitely something I could do. They'd love to be able to do that. So that's awesome. Thanks, Kim.
So, Kim, I've just put three websites that are regularly used for fact checking into the chat.
Fantastic.
So, if people want to click on those and open them up and save them on their local devices, that'd be good.
Snopes, APN News, APF Fact Check, and
Full fact.
fullfact.org. Well done, Charles. There you go.
Uh, well, there's the use of the tool called ChatGPT, which we don't always believe as much as we might believe Google. Would that be correct, Kim?
What? Can you run that
Well,
by me one more time? I'm trying
I
to
think one of
process
one
that.
of the things I find about the internet is that it's so easy to believe stuff these days online. And the reason, fact checking like this, but I think questioning almost everything we read online, unless we have multiple input sources to give us a variety. So whether we're reading about food or we're reading about politics or we're reading about education or whatever it might be, we need to have multiple sources to give us the best filter to decide what's really fact or what's fiction.
It's true. And it's funny because like ChatGPT isn't completely there either. We need to have a basic understanding of what it is we're asking of ChatGPT. I mean, I tell ChatGPT before I ask it anything, I give it all the information about my brand, my storytelling, all of my courses before I even ask it to create anything for me. So I'm actually giving it that. And then I have to actually check that what it's adding is correct. So this is, we need to be doing that across every platform that we're on, because if you're publishing something and you're going to be held accountable for what you're publishing, yeah, well, the onus is on you.
Exactly. Cool. Well, has anybody got any other final questions they'd like to give Kim or unmute themselves?
I'm sure they've heard enough from me for one night.
Well, not at all. Come on. It's always good information.
And look, I'm happy. All my contact details are there. If you have any other questions or you'd like to explore a conversation, you want to be on my podcast, reach out by emailing me or connecting with me on any of those platforms. And I'd be more than happy to have a chat with you outside of this webinar. That's what I'm here for.
Fantastic. All right. Well, Kim, thank you for this evening's information. Thank you for
Thank
sharing.
you.
Wonderful as always. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for participating with Pushed. We have these Zooms each month, different subjects, and you'll get an email in the next few days about next month's subject. So we look forward to seeing you on that Zoom as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you and good night.